It's time for From the Shortgrass, presented by UAMS Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine with Trey, a golf podcast for those who love golf, struggle with golf, and just like to enjoy the outdoors and fellowship with friends, all while chasing a ball around, trying to put it in a 4 1/4 inch diameter hole. From the Shortgrass is presented by UAMS Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, and brought to you by Stevens Incorporated, an independent financial services firm with the freedom to focus on what matters most. Beechwood Pinnacle Hotels. We partner with you to deliver high-yield results by managing, developing, and investing in top-quality hospitality assets. And now, from the Shortgrass, here's your host, Trey.
Welcome to another edition of From the Shortgrass, presented by UAMS Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. I am your host, Trey. Hey, remember, at UAMS Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, they are dedicated to keeping you in the game. From sports injuries to joint replacement, they provide world-class care right here in Arkansas. Call 501-686-TOSH to schedule your appointment today and get back to living pain-free. That's 501-686-8674. Congratulations to Team USA and Captain Stacy Lewis on winning the Solheim Cup here on American soil. Team USA wins 15.5 to 12.5 there in Virginia at the Robert Trent Jones Golf Club. Coming up, I recently traveled to Colorado Springs, Colorado, and the Broadmoor Golf Club to sit down for this interview with Russ Miller, the director of golf at the Broadmoor. He is a fantastic person and a great PGA professional as well. I hope you will enjoy this interview coming up after the break. Stay with us.
Beechwood Pinnacle Hotel Group is the leader in the state in managing hotel properties. From El Dorado to Jonesboro to Fayetteville to Kansas City and back home in Little Rock, you will find a Beechwood Pinnacle managed hotel property. Are you looking for a weekend staycation? Book the Hilton Garden Inn located on Rock Street and enjoy the Agassi 7-rooftop bar with fantastic views of the Little Rock skyline. Open Sunday through Thursday evenings from 4 to 11 and Friday and Saturday from 5 to midnight. Find them on the web at bphotels.com. Beechwood Pinnacle Hotel Group.
Strength is measured not by the number of accounts. Strength is placing value on relationships. It's having the vision and the guts to invest in growth. It's the commitment to responsibly manage your money. At Stevens, we believe that our strengths build success, not only for us, but for our clients. Stevens, member NYSE, SIPC.
This is Justin Acree. If you have hip or knee pain, it's time to see the experts at the Orthopedic and Spine Hospital at UAMS Health. I've known Dr. Lowry Barnes for years, and he is a Hall of Fame surgeon who has operated on many Hall of Famers like Terry Bradshaw and Sidney Moncrief. He refers to Dr. Jeff Stambo and Dr. Ben Stronach as the best joint surgeons in Arkansas, and they all work at the Orthopedic and Spine Hospital at UAMS Health. Call 501-686-TOSH to schedule your appointment. That's 501-686-8674.
Welcome back to this edition of From the Shortgrass, presented by UAMS Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. I am your host, Trey. Russ Miller first interviewed at the Broadmoor at the age of 30 to be their head professional and director of golf. It wasn't until 5 years later he got a call back asking him if he would accept that position. You'll hear more about that right now. On the tee, Russ Miller.
Russ, thanks for joining me on From the Shortgrass, just off the putting green of the beautiful Broadmoor. Do you remember the first time you ever picked up a golf club?
Gosh, it's funny. My dad played professional baseball, and I didn't really start playing golf till maybe junior high, and just didn't fall in love with it. I loved baseball and football. You know how kids do back in the old days. You played 3 sports, and I remember my dad saying, you can't play these other things all your life, and you can't jump, and you're not very fast, so you need to learn to play golf. And then I played in high school and ended up playing in college and kind of fell in love with it at that point. But I honestly don't remember the first time I picked up a club. Probably 10 years old maybe.
What was it that drew you in, besides the fact that your dad said, yeah, you can play this late into life, but what was it when you really fell in love with the game, do you think?
I do remember how difficult it was, and it's something you could challenge yourself. And I used to play a lot of golf by myself. Just grab a bag and go walk 36 holes. And I remember, you're always trying to break 90, then you try to break 80, then you try to break 70, and there's something you can compete against yourself, and I remember doing that. And for some reason, I love to putt, and I didn't like to practice, but I love to putt. And it's funny, I'm 61 years old. I still have the same putter that my dad gave me when I was 9 years old, and I still use it. It's an old Zebra. Only putter I've ever used, and I've maybe tried something once or twice, but it's old, and I just love to get out there and try to make putts.
Some of putting goes into reading the green.
Yeah.
I understand you can read the greens out here at the Broadmoor very well.
Well, when you're here as long as I have been, one of the greatest things I get to do is when we hold these championships, I get to work with the USGA and help set the whole locations because, once again, I've been here so long and have done it so much. And I know there's certain areas that you just can't put a hole location. If it's more than 2.5%, 3% of grade, I won't do it. And that gives them peace of mind knowing that they're not going to get caught off guard by a tough hole location where the ball won't stop. To me, that's the most enjoyable part of my job is setting up a golf course for a tournament.
Speaking of the USGA championships, the first one here, Jack Nicklaus won, U.S. Amateur. And you look at some of the big names in golf, Jack Nicklaus on the men's side, Annika Sorenstam on the women's side, both won their first, if you will, major. I mean, not professional major for Mr. Nicklaus, but major for Annika here at the Broadmoor on the East Course.
And I think it says a lot about probably the two greatest players of all time, male and female, won their first championships here. That says a lot about, one, their careers, but how challenging these golf courses are. Mr. Nicklaus was here a couple years ago, and we're standing on 4 Green East. He goes, I think Augusta National has the second hardest set of greens in the world. I'm standing on the hardest set of greens in the world. And we kind of take that as a compliment. These were built in 1918, never been changed, and they've held up over time, and you can still hold major championships. And, he said these are the hardest set of greens I've ever played on anywhere in the world. And I think that's pretty neat.
You're taught that everything flows away from hills. But they say sometimes out here, the mountains are to your west, but sometimes the putt might break towards the mountain as opposed to away from it.
There's one hole, 17, which is a par 5. It kind of breaks as you see it, and the mountain doesn't have an effect, and we have no idea why because, once again, that green was there since 1918. But without a doubt, every other hole breaks away from the mountain. And if you think of it as gravity, Cheyenne Mountain is another 3,000 feet higher. So the course just slopes downward from the mountain. So they're just head scratchers. People will look at a putt and go, there's no way it does that, and it does that. And that's what makes it so hard.
You came here 26 years ago. You would have liked to have been here a little bit earlier, I understand. And you didn't get the job when you were 30 years old. You wanted to come here to the Broadmoor. Why?
So I'll give you a short version. The former CEO of the Greenbrier in West Virginia retired at the club where I was a director of golf in North Carolina. And I'd been there at that time 5 years. And he goes, look, Dow Finsterwald is going to retire at the Broadmoor. I think it'd be a great next step for you. And once again, like you said, Trey, I was 30 years old. So the CEO out at the Broadmoor at the time had worked under him at the Greenbrier and was a good friend and got us connected. So I flew out here to interview. He flew to North Carolina to see where I was working, and I flew back out the second time. And he goes, Russ, my heart tells me to hire you, but my head tells me you're just too young and not ready for it. And he goes, I'm sorry, but I'm going to choose someone else. And like you said, I was 30 years old, and I think he made the exact right decision. Because maybe I wasn't ready. You don't know what you don't know, but
it's not often that someone says that.
Correct, the way he said it. And he says, if you're not too mad at me, let's remain friends and just see what happens in the future. Well, sure enough, I get a call, and we did remain friends. We talked and saw each other, and a few years later, he called me back and says, the guy we hired just didn't work out. Are you still interested? And I said, absolutely. So I flew back out here, and we did the deal, and 26 years later, here it is. But I do respect, that was what a great learning thing for me. I respect how he said it, and he's such a smart businessman. I think he was correct. I mean, I just probably wasn't ready. But when I came back at age 35, I was definitely ready.
Your time in North Carolina, that's where you grew up?
Correct.
What was that like?
It's funny when you're in the golf business, you tend to move around. I went to college in Michigan and then graduated, got married, moved to Florida, moved to Fort Worth, Texas, got back to North Carolina, and I swore I'd never leave again because home's home, and I really liked it. And I was at a great club on the coast of North Carolina. And like I said, there were 9 years, and you have at that age, at 35, you have to think, well, where do I want to be when I'm 60 or 65? And do I still want to be here? And Trey, I hate to say it, but I was getting a little bit bored with what I was doing. And I was teaching a lot, so I was on the range 8 hours a day, and we were hosting some events. We hosted the first televised NCAA championship, women's. And but that's like the biggest thing we did. We did the state amateur, but I knew if I came to the Broadmoor, I could do USGA worldwide championships. And so that's why we decided to leave and to pick up 2 little kids at 6 and 7 years old and live on the beach and move out to somewhere I'd never been before was a risk. But once again, this is such a wonderful place, and I can't believe it's been 26 years. It just, you never get tired of this view as you're looking at right now, and the weather and the opportunity to be at a great 5-star resort has been great for me.
How long can you play golf here throughout the year?
We normally get to early November, and it's funny, the weather here, there's 2 seasons. There's summer and winter. There's no spring and fall here. And spring is not good. I'll just be totally honest with you. But we can play till early November, and then it really gets cold. And because the mountain sits west of us, the sun goes behind the mountain really early. And in December, it's dark at 4 o'clock. But then we kind of crank back up, maybe in April, but definitely in May. So from May through October, I think this is the greatest place in the country to be. Blue skies, dry, no humidity, just great. So, but the winter's the winter. I mean, we're at 6,600 feet, so you do have some winter here.
And people that are listening to this golf podcast, they can come and play this place. All you have to do is book a room.
That's correct. Yeah, and that's one unique thing. We're not open to the public, so you have to be a resort guest to play the golf courses, and that adds. It's a bucket list for a lot of people. And I'm not saying we're Pebble Beach or Pinehurst number 2, but we're pretty close, I think.
Let's talk about the championships that have been here, and not just individual championships, but team competitions as well. Curtis Cup?
Mm-hmm. The Senior Open in 2025 will be our 9th USGA championship. So we've had Curtis Cups. We've had men's amateur. Like you said, Mr. Nicholas won his first major. We've had ladies amateur championship. Julie Inster won that. And now we're on a 6-year rota with the U.S. Senior Open because the demographics of our clients and the golf course here is perfect for a Senior Open. Would love to do a U.S. Open, but just at this altitude, we'd have to be probably 8,500 yards long, and we're 7,300 yards long. And we've tried to look at every way possible to make it happen, but we're landlocked. I mean, we're maxed out. But having said that, the Senior Open is a huge success here. The players love it because, as you're doing, they stay right here and they walk 3 minutes and they're on the golf course. We have all the restaurants, everything they need for a week. So we'll continue doing the Senior Open every 6 years is the plan.
If you were to get a U.S. Open, I would think it would have to take the golf ball being rolled back. Absolutely. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And, like I said, our greens are so difficult. We'd have to narrow the fairways, roll the ball back, maybe roll the driver back, the factor of how fast the ball comes off the club face. But what a cool thing. And another example is Cherry Hills, just up the street. They can't have a U.S. Open because of its length. I mean, it's actually shorter than we are. They can do a U.S. Amateur, but not a U.S. Open. I think some of the greatest golf courses in the country are not able to do those championships anymore just because of how far they hit it. And even watching the seniors back in 2018, where they hit the ball is just amazing, and they're 50 years old and plus, obviously. So just imagine a guy who's 25, and these courses become obsolete for them, which is kind of sad.
I sat down with Fred Perpall back in December, and I asked him about the golf ball rollback. And I wasn't a fan of it, but then when I heard his explanation, it made all the sense in the world, Russ, to me, because, like you say, you're landlocked. You can't go any further to try to stretch this golf course out, and specifically at altitude, the ball flies much further, the air's a little thinner, that you think of St. Andrews, the old course, it can't go any further. You can't stretch it out. Pebble Beach, can't stretch it out. Are we going to make these meccas of golf obsolete because we don't kind of curtail everything and tone it down a little bit?
Yeah, and I think the challenge, if you're a manufacturer, a Callaway, okay, and you're trying to sell golf balls, when you have bifurcation of what the normal person plays versus the tour player, how do you do that? How do you – and the public likes to see guys hitting at 330 and making birdies. But once again, like you said, that makes a lot of great places obsolete. I was looking at a video of St. Andrews, the British Open, last week, and it was from the mid-late 70s. And y'all use 18 as an example. They were hitting driver, 8-irons, 9-irons into 18 at St. Andrews. Now they're trying to drive the green every time if the wind allows them to. So things have changed, and change is good. But I think the USGA and the PGA is in a really hard spot right now trying to figure out what is the right step.
Well, and you also look at the cost associated, not just with rollback of the golf ball, but the course maintenance.
Yes.
And that's where Mr. Perpall brought it back home to me was if Club A down the road has a 650-yard par 5 and Club B doesn't, but Club B has the means to get there to try and keep up with the Joneses, then Club B has to do that. Well, that incurs a cost of bringing in a course architect, designing the hole to make it longer, and then you have the course maintenance to go with it.
Exactly.
And if you're trying to conserve water as opposed to use more, it only makes sense, doesn't it?
Totally. And, it's all about water conservation. To me, water is gold. Water is our big, in the state of Colorado, water is the most important thing we have. And, we're a dry state, and we're fighting forest fires a lot. And but then this week we've had 5 inches of rain in 2 weeks, and we just think it's the greatest thing in the world, but we may not see a cloud for another month. Mm-hmm. So what we're doing here beginning next fall, we're taking a lot of turf grass, which is irrigated, and converting it into native called western wheat, which once you get it seeded and growing, you turn the water off of it. And it's visually beautiful. It's a different color. It's almost a reddish gold. You can still find your ball and hit out of it.
I was going to say, that's the thing. when you go way off the fairway, can you play out of it?
Absolutely. And we have that grass here in places. And once again, that's our effort on conservation. But at the same time, if you look back at our old photos from the early 1900s, you had fairways, but you had western wheat everywhere. And it's a cool look. But the conservation piece of it is huge. And I think people respect that. And the world now kind of requires that. They demand conservation.
Mike Davis said of you, former executive director of the United States Golf Association, said, if Pinehurst got washed out, I could call Russ and the Broadmoor could host the U.S. Open within a month.
We would try.
I don't know that you might get all the grandstands built, but you could still hold a championship.
That's what's pretty neat about these courses. And thanks to our superintendent and his staff, today you could have a championship here, and it's just a normal summer day. But yes, we would take it on, and we would figure it out. And Mike Davis is a dear friend. I love the USGA, and like I said before, one of my most favorite things to do was to walk out with Mike and set the whole locations, because it was his call. I mean, he was the man on the Opens, and he'd go, Russ, what do you think about this? And I said, well, Mike, I think if we just moved it 3 feet left, we're safe. And it was a great relationship, and I miss Mike. I think he's doing well, but those were fun times, and to have a facility that could host a U.S. Open at any day is pretty spectacular. Yeah.
Best putter you've ever seen out here at the Broadmoor?
Gosh, that's a good question. I can tell you best putter I've ever seen ever. I worked for Harvey Ward, who won 3 U.S. amateurs and 2 British amateurs. Best putter by far I've ever seen. It's hard to be a great putter out here because it's just so hard. Even if you read it correctly, but to hit it, we were talking, I had some pros here this week, and we were talking, no putts go in at 6 o'clock here. They're always on the sides. They're 2 o'clock or 10 o'clock because the greens break so much. And I've seen some really, really good putters just struggle, and as I do too. So that's a good question. I can't answer that.
Best score you've shot here?
63.
Wow.
Long time ago.
I heard you were good.
I'm a has-been.
Come on.
the best round I ever had here, I was playing against Cherry Hills. We had a Cherry Hills match, and I was head-to-head against Clayton Cole, who everyone knows Clayton, great player, played on the tour, played in Senior Opens, this and that. And I'm not bragging, but this is just how fun of a day it was. He and I head-to-head in 18 holes made 17 birdies, and I shot 63, he shot 64, and I beat him one up.
Wow.
But it was one of those things, Trey, when you finished the round, I had no idea what I shot. It was such a fun, competitive round, and Clayton's one of my very, very best friends. And we walk off 18 green. He goes, Russ, great round. I said, you too, Clayton. I said, what do we shoot? I said, I knew I won one up in the match play, but he goes, well, you shot 63, I shot 64. And I said, man, I don't need to do a whole lot more in my life. That may have been the most enjoyable round of golf in my life. Well, that was, 20 years ago. And now if I break 76, I'm pretty happy.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, age.
As the older you get, you're
Exactly.
like, yeah.
Your standards change quite a bit.
Exactly. What does it mean to you to be named PGA Professional of the Year like you were one time in your career?
I think the greatest thing we've been able to do here, and it's not just me, it's our team. We've had over 50 people that worked here going to become directors of golf, head professionals, general managers. That's what I'm most proud of, to be honest. And I'm not about awards. I kind of shy away from them. But to say we've got some, I call them kids, when they were here in their 20s, and now they're director of golf at some of the greatest courses in the country. That's pretty special. That's cool. And like we tell them when they come here, you're going to work at the most difficult place anywhere because our standards are so high. And you're going to hate some things, and you're going to get tired, and you're going to question some things. But once you leave, you're going to go, now I get why they did it that way. Mm-hmm. I mean, why do the golf carts have to be spotless? Why do the range balls have to be perfectly clean? All these things. And but I think that's what makes me most proud is 50-some people have great jobs. And once again, I get an award, and I'm not an award person, but it's this place. It's not me.
As a born and raised Carolinian, did I say that right?
You did.
What was your reaction when you found out you were going into the Colorado Golf Hall of Fame?
Okay, I have a great story. So my mom, who's 91, my dad's 90, they're still living. I get the call from Keith Snyder up at Castle Pines and says, you've been selected for the Hall of Fame. And I called my mom that night, and I said, Mom, I have some kind of cool news. I got elected into the Hall of Fame, and would like y'all to come out for the ceremony in November. And Mama, without hesitation, she goes, how in heaven's name did you get in the Colorado Golf Hall of Fame with those grades you made in high school? Now, here I am, 58? I said, Mom, that's a great question. How you came up with that? She's got that southern drawl.
Of course.
She goes, how in heaven's name? I said, don't know. Tricked him, I don't know. But anyway, it's a cool deal.
And it's neat that the Colorado Golf Hall of Fame is housed here just outside the pro shop.
It is.
Of the Broadmoor.
Yeah, it was at a club in North Denver, and they just kind of ran out of room. And they came to us and said, would you consider housing it here at the Broadmoor? And we're trying to think, well, where do we put it, and how do we do it, and who's paying for it, and all these things. Well, that was kind of a vanilla hallway. I mean, you go to the spa that way. You go to the fitness center that way. But we had some pretty smart architects, and they came up with it, and now it's just fabulous. And it's a destination, people. We have a lot of people come here just to see the Hall of Fame.
It looks nice. I walked through it. It's fantastic.
It turned out incredibly good. Yeah. And, this year Wyndham Clark's getting in. But it's always growing. We're going to elect 2 or 3 new Hall of Famers each year, so you keep expanding it, and you keep thinking, how can we make it better and interesting and all those things. But it was a great project. It took about 2 years, and it was expensive, but we raised the money, and we're proud of how it turned out.
With all the history around here, next year, summer, late June,
June 23rd to 29.
2025 U.S. Senior Open returns to the Broadmoor. You've got a big role to play. If people want to come, what do they need to do?
Yeah, well, it's on the Broadmoor website, has all the information on the whole championship. Tickets are for sale now. We started early. We're proud to say that of all the Senior Open sites, we've had the second most spectators of any Senior Open site in history. Omaha, Nebraska gets number 1. And
Omaha Country Club, great course.
And it's kind of the only game in town, and I love that. When you have any kind of a sporting event in Omaha, it's a big deal. And we're kind of lucky to have it here because we're not Denver that has NBA, Major League Baseball, football, Broncos, all those things. We're an hour away, so it's a big deal here. We'll have about 130,000 spectators over the period of the week, which is a lot. And but we're, as you know, we're a big, wide open course and big facility, so we can house that many. But there's nothing like being here the championship week when you work on something for 4 years and then it starts and you see the Hale Irwins and the Ben Crenshaws and the Bernard Longers and all these heroes of mine compete on your golf course and struggle.
Yeah, it's pretty special. All right, couple of last questions here. Favorite course you've ever played, and I have to take this one out because I can't let you say this one.
Yeah, I get asked that a lot. Augusta National's my second favorite, but my first favorite, my number one favorite is a club called Mid Pines Resort in Pinehurst, 1908 Donald Ross. I did an internship there in college, but that's not why it's my favorite. I think it's the coolest visual genius work of Donald Ross I've ever seen. It's been very little changes since it was built. To me, a great golf course is there's no bad holes, and every hole is unique, and every hole looks a little different and has its own characteristics. And Mid Pines, every hole is really good. There are no bad holes and no unfair holes. And you go, how did he do this with mules and, shovels and all that in 1908? I'm just amazed by that.
And the amount of courses that he produced.
Yeah.
That are up there as top of the top.
Oh, top of the top. And so when he did the Broadmoor, it was the furthest west he'd ever physically been on site to design a golf course. He designed, and a lot of people don't know this, he designed some courses in California but was never there. He drew it on paper and gave it to somebody and said, go do it. He was physically here. And he also, we have the quotes that he said, the Broadmoor is the most beautiful piece of ground I've ever worked on.
Wow.
And once again, I grew up near Pinehurst, and that's pretty spectacular too, but when him to actually say that, I mean, that's pretty special. And this looks like Pinehurst, except we have mountains.
Exactly.
It's just a little different there.
Yeah. Once you get beyond the pines, then you see the mountain. Cheyenne Mountain off to the west. Fantasy foursome, living or deceased, 3 other golfers you would like to play around to golf with. Who would they be?
Definitely Harvey Ward, who's deceased. I worked for, like I said, the greatest putter and short game I've ever seen. Used to love playing with my dad, and everybody says that, but when I got to play with him on Saturdays when I was in high school, I thought that was just the coolest thing. Gosh, probably at the time, if I could have played with Mr. Nicklaus, that would be pretty special.
Yeah.
I'm not a celebrity chaser by any means, but I would have loved to have seen him in his heyday, how really good he was. Because in my mind, he's the greatest player ever. Now, not taking anything away from Tiger and some other people, but just what he was able to do, I think is pretty special.
Russ, I can't thank you enough for your time, and best of luck with the Senior Open next year.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Beechwood Pinnacle Hotel Group is the leader in the state in managing hotel properties. From El Dorado to Jonesboro to Fayetteville to Kansas City and back home in Little Rock, you will find a Beechwood Pinnacle managed hotel property. Are you looking for a weekend staycation? Book the Hilton Garden Inn located on Rock Street and enjoy the Agassi 7-rooftop bar with fantastic views of the Little Rock skyline. Open Sunday through Thursday evenings from 4 to 11 and Friday and Saturday from 5 to midnight. Find them on the web at bphotels.com. Beechwood Pinnacle Hotel Group.
Hello, this is Justin Acree. When you think about total joint replacement, you should think of the Orthopedic and Spine Hospital at UAMS Health. This great new facility has the 3 best total joint surgeons in the state with Lowry Barnes, Jeff Stambo, and Ben Stronach. Why would you consider going anywhere else? Folks come to UAMS Health from around the country to have their joints replaced. You should too. Call 501-686-TOSH to schedule your appointment today. That's 501-686-8674. The doctor will see you now.
Welcome back to this edition of From the Short Grass, presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine. I want to thank Russ Miller for sitting down and taking time out of his extremely busy schedule to talk with me there at the Broadmoor. If you haven't gone, put it on your bucket list. Go, stay, and play at the Broadmoor. Beechwood Pinnacle Hotel Group, one of our great sponsors. Find them on the web, bphotels.com, for a great hotel near you for your next overnight stay. Remember, when you find your ball mark on the green, fix it and a couple of more. And I hope to see you sometime soon from the Short Grass.
You have been listening to From the Short Grass, presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine, a weekly podcast dedicated to the game of golf. This has been a presentation of the Buzz Radio Network in association with Majestic Cubby Productions.